If you were to ask me who the auteur of most Marvel movies is, it's Kevin Feige. I don't care I don't care about most of the director names on it. I would say the Russos work as like a collaborator with Feige, kind of like how they did with Dan Harmon on Community. So that's kind of like a shared credit. Same with James Gunn. But I mean, let's see. Peyton Reed has. I really don't think he has too much say on what happened in the Ant-Man movies. I think that was mostly Kevin Feige.
Couldn't agree more. Okay, I think we got to start.
Yeah, we got to start. We're going to start. All right.
Okay, so are you hitting it?
Yeah, we're going to hit the theme music, baby. Boom.
Talk about sports. Yeah, sports. Talk about sports. Yeah, sports. Talk about sports. Sports Tuesday. Talk about sports. Talk about sports. Sports Tuesday. Talk about sports.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to season. Oh my God, I can't even remember what season I think we're on season 8, season 8.5 now of the Scuttle. Alec and I have decided that we're going to do a little series of pods on pop culture and stuff because they seem to be relatively popular within the league and a little bit outside the league too. I looked at the numbers for the episode for like episodes and stuff, and the ones where we talk about pop culture kind of pop off a little bit on YouTube. And by that I mean we get into the 20s in terms of viewing, which is
start small, baby. Building block by building block.
And plus, as you now have heard, we have a theme song now. I'm going to shout out my buddy Ben. His music group Digital Women made that for us. I'm going to give them another shout out at the end of the pod, or at the end of every pod now. Because we're a real podcast now. We give our people shout outs and stuff.
So Digital Women is the name of the band that made it?
Yeah. That's the name.
Shout out to Digital Women. It's a great.
They are on SoundCloud. And he is looking to make an album. The sound of the band is very different than the theme music because I made very special requests, but he's pretty good. I'd say he's very inspired by Queens of the Stone Age.
Oh, wow, nice. Okay, yeah, so it's way different than what our theme music is.
Yeah,
he crushed it. I thought it was great.
Dude, 2 tries and he fucking nailed it. That's what's insane. All right, so today we are going to be discussing something that's very near and dear to me and Alec, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They recently just dropped their second project of what they're calling Phase 6, and that project is Wonder Man. That's technically under the Spotlight banner, which means it's not too important to the overall story of the MCU and the multiverse saga that they're telling right now. But there does seem to be, those characters will pop up again in other stuff at some point. All right, so the leads for Wonder Man, they are this is a hard one. Yahya Abdul-Mateen II.
That's good.
You might know him from the Aquaman movies. He played Black Manta and just fucking crushed it. And he was also in the Watchmen show as that version of Dr. Manhattan. Not to be too spoilery, but he did really good in that one. And then it's also co-led with Sir Ben Kingsley, who you might remember as Trevor Slattery from Iron Man 3 and Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Which, who would have thought that man would have made it into 3 movies at this point?
It is crazy. Honestly, Ben Kingsley he's not really in much these days anyway. He popped up in I feel like a murder mystery for old people, and then I haven't really seen much of him since, honestly.
So I think he's gotten to a point where he's just doing what he wants.
He's great in this.
Yeah,
really
he
good.
was. This was phenomenal from him. I was not expecting. I would have, if I was an actor his age, having done what I've done, I would have just been like, I'm showing up to set, I'm gonna do my thing, and then. But no, he went out there and did some work.
He really is. He's 82 years old. You really you got to throw it up for a guy who's still I thought for sure he was just going to cash a paycheck here too, but he took it seriously, which was really nice.
Yeah.
We'd
love to see it. So You may be wondering who Wonder Man is. Wonder Man was introduced in Avengers number 9 by Jack Kirby and Stan Lee. He was originally a villain of the Avengers. He joined the team as like a spy under the orders of Baron Zemo and was given ionic powers because he hated Tony Stark, because he ran a tech company and he was not as smart as Tony Stark. What are you going to do about that?
Tough.
You're going to turn into a supervillain. You're going to try to blow up his stuff, which apparently happens to every CEO in the Marvel Universe at this point. He died in that issue, actually, and then came back a lot later as an actual ally of the Avengers. He actually served as the brain mapping for the Vision, so they do consider themselves to be brothers, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then yeah, I mean, he's essentially an immortal Avenger. He's as strong as the Hulk. He can fly. Lately in the comics, he's decided to become a bit of a pacifist because of the everything from like Civil War to Avengers versus X-Men. He was kind of like, what the fuck are we doing, guys?
Interesting.
Yeah, and he was like, I can't be. I don't know if I can be a part of this anymore. I don't know. I don't see how violence keeps solving these issues. But
so. But the TV show focuses, like, where does the TV show kind of sit? Because now he's, like, trying to be an actor in the TV show. Does that take place in his, like, character arc in the comics?
So in the comics, when he joins, like, the West Coast Avengers with Hawkeye, Vision, War Machine, and Moon Knight, actually, he decides to, he needs some money. They're not being funded by Tony Stark at the moment, so gotta eat. Even when you're made of ions, and he decides to become an actor. And he does okay at it. He does have particular moments that he gets made fun of a lot, particularly by his best friend, Hank McCoy, also known as Beast, which could be cool to see in the movies done at some point, depending on which direction they want to go with Beast, because they could go really dark with Beast. And the show decides to focus primarily on him as an actor. They completely ignore the CEO aspect of his character, which I think is a good thing. It kind of simplifies his story because he's kind of all over the place in terms of comic stuff. Very similar to what they did with Moon Knight, just kind of narrow it down, focus it, and cut out a lot of unnecessary crap. Also importantly, in this version of Simon Williams, he is a mutant. He was born with these powers. Yeah. Anytime someone in Marvel is born with powers, or they get their powers around puberty without an outside source, like being bit by a radioactive spider, they're a mutant.
That's a big distinction. Big distinction for business reasons, comic reasons, a lot of reasons. That's
especially in terms of like where we're going to be going after Secret Wars and all that stuff.
Yes. Good call out.
Yeah. And this show has gotten, I would say, nothing but praise. It's got like a 94% on Rotten Tomatoes.
But yeah. Wonderful project out of Marvel. Really good. We talked about this. I mean, we both like this project. I would say that I told you, I know off tech or in text, that I think this came about 4 years too late, just in terms of the scale of this show is the first thing I really liked. You know, I feel like Marvel, like particularly their TV stuff, it got a little kind of, it just felt.
They were turning into 6-hour movies, really.
Yeah. Exactly. I couldn't agree more. And the scale of this show and like the meta commentary on kind of, you know, Marvel, superhero, Hollywood, it was kind of sitting there a long time, honestly, for Marvel to sort of make fun of itself. I mean, and Deadpool accomplishes that to a certain degree, but I like the flavor of this show and the tone I really, really liked. And I wish Marvel, it's particularly their TV shows, took more risks in this sort of like genre space, you know?
I would say I agree with that. And I think one of the best things they did, and they probably should have done this to start their TV series stuff, is this show was made by Destin Daniel Cretton, the guy that did Shang-Chi, and is going to be doing Spider-Man Brand New Day. I really like him as a director, and apparently he does have some experience in TV, so that helped him set this up in terms, like, he wasn't just a dude, he wasn't just directing episodes, he was in charge, he was involved in the whole story and stuff. Very similar to what Ryan Coogler did in Ironheart, which was also pretty good. I liked Wonder Man more, but Ironheart was still really good.
Yeah, I don't think I saw Ironheart, but I remember you talking to me about it and you enjoyed it for the most part. I didn't realize Cougar was attached to that though.
Yeah, he directed, I think, the first and last episode, and was overarching through the whole thing, just like Destin Daniel Cretton does here. And I would say of the last few Marvel shows that have come out, I would say only those two and Moon Knight, maybe Miss Marvel, deserve second seasons. I think Miss Marvel works better in a teen book or a teen setting in some way. Just because she doesn't have, like a roster of villains yet to really make a good show out of, I would say. Not like Daredevil.
I mean, I would say that model works. I mean, Breaking Bad with Vince Gilligan was the same. Like, anytime you sort of have the showrunner who doesn't have to direct every episode, but can just be like the architectural vision behind a show. Mm-hmm. And Wonder Man feels like that. It feels like something where, like, I have this whole idea of what I want this show to be, what I want the tone to be, how I want the show to move and the rhythm of it. And I can kind of fill people in on that rhythm and let them kind of take their own flavor on it, but it fundamentally stays within the parameters of someone's vision, which I just think it's really hard to do TV otherwise, particularly with Marvel, which is such a, it's a nuanced thing,
I think it's a very rare skill to be like a pure showrunner. Honestly, I think the only guy right now that's like that is Bill Lawrence, and he's been crushing it with Ted Lasso and Shrinking and the new Scrubs reboot, which I already know is going to be fantastic, just because.
Hey man, I'm excited for that too. Hey, you're talking to you got me into Shrinking, and I think Shrinking's great.
So good.
But yeah, I really enjoyed Wonder Man, and like I said, I'm really excited. I'm not the only one to say this. Marvel, it's definitely, I think, creatively gotten a little stale over the last 3 to 4 years, mm-hmm. and they need to be better around this sort of like, we're going to take a genre and put the Marvel spin on it, right? Like they used to do that. Real Winter Soldier was like that political espionage. They used to, and like even. They've done that before, and I feel like kind of almost felt like the Marvels take on like the studio, like the almost felt like the Marvels take on like the studio, like the Seth Rogen show, which I thought was a good idea. Like I feel like that's how they should always kind of be pitching things in their space. It's like, okay, like, I just always like, what's going to be the unique flavor to this particular project,
Yeah, because you can't just. I mean, I would say that superhero fatigue could be a very real thing if every single movie was the same. And
yes.
In particular, Marvel has done I would say the one thing that they've done really well throughout all their saga is that most of these movies do all feel really different. I would say the weakest part has been a lot of the shows, and I blame that on that last Disney CEO that basically wanted to just flood the zone with Disney Plus shows, and at that point, they all become kind of the same. I would say that, like, Falcon and Winter Soldier, Hawkeye, kind of Moon Knight, and even Miss Marvel are all kind of the same show. They all have their own little, like, kind of differences and stuff, but it's not enough to really, I would say, set them apart.
Yeah, it was the TV show. I think is like the TV show strategy. We've talked at length around why it didn't work. It's its whole other pod, but. You could essentially synthesize it to they just wanted to flood with whatever content they could get in, and it was just not thoughtful or careful. And that's what you get. But I did think so. I really liked Wonder Man, and I'm really hoping they kind of stay on this route. And I know we already talked around this, but another huge Wonder Man thing, the Trevor Slattery character was really cool. I was thrilled that he was brought back. So Trevor Slattery. Tom, maybe you want to fill folks in on Iron Man 3, because that, if anyone saw it, was kind of a divisive film, and he gets brought back. And I kind of liked him in Iron Man 3, so it's nice to see Kingsley reprise this role, and he seems to actually really enjoy it. But maybe you start with Iron Man 3 and why he had kind of a tumultuous journey.
Why Marvel fans used to hate him, and now they love him again, because...
Exactly.
Yeah. So originally in Iron Man 3, Ben Kingsley was said to be cast as the Mandarin, who is Iron Man's, like, arguably number one nemesis. It's either him or Stain or a Hammer of some sort. Usually there's like 18 different Hammer kids that run that company at some point or another. But the Mandarin is usually considered to be like his number one nemesis. And the Mandarin has a very complicated comic history too. He's very much a racist caricature in terms of like the Yellow Peril and fears of communism and all that type of stuff. And
well, it came out in the 60s, right?
Yeah, he would have been in the 60s. He debuted. He was like one of the first Iron Man villains. I can't remember which issue he was, but it was probably within like the first 15, to be honest.
Well, and I think it's important for his character because, like, you know, during the 60s, communism, you're in the heights of the Cold War here. And, you know, it's just like classic, like, you had the Fu Manchu mustache, you got a lot of dragons, mystical magic stuff.
Fu Manchu actually is technically a Marvel character, too.
Oh, no.
In the original Shang-Chi run, Fu Manchu is his dad.
Of course. So it's just like, it doesn't, like, it just doesn't look, it's just like, it's just shitty.
It's exploitation, but it's the 60s, and Tony Stark was the capitalist superhero, even though if you actually read those ones, Stanley's really undercutting capitalism a lot in those stories, but you have to have the American fight the communist in some way, shape, or form. And he has a ton of Russian villains, too. Crimson Dynamo, who I hope to see someday on the big screen, which would be cool. I'd love to see the whole Winter Guard pop up at some point. But yeah, that's where he came from. But that's very because heading into Iron, that's his so that's what comic book folks were thinking of the Mandarin. Is that sort of world. And the first two Iron Man films established the 10 Rings as a terrorist organization, and the Mandarin's big thing is that he has 10 magic rings that give him control over like the elements, mind control, all kinds. He's a really, really jacked up villain. It turns out his rings are actually from the same alien race as Fin Fang Foom, another very interesting and arguably racist character. He's depicted as a dragon, and he comes from China.
A lot of dragons. I mean, it's
a lot of dragons. And, you know,
dragons all the way down.
I could do a whole episode on how Shang-Chi kind of redeems Marvel in that light with all that stuff. But that's a whole other thing. But the big twist in Iron Man 3 is that the Mandarin is not the Mandarin. He's an actor named Trevor Slattery. AIM has decided to create him as just like a boogeyman to scare people into, I can't even remember. I think, what was Killian trying to do in Iron Man 3?
I don't remember. It's really not all that important. I really think that the big thing is that, like, the Mandarin now is like from the Middle East, right? So that's like, you know, that was the other thing too. Like, no longer Asian, now he's like from the Middle East, and so you kind of change his like origins more or less. But I also think it worked as a really good commentary. Like when I saw Iron Man 3, I was like, oh, this is cool. Like it's like updating this, like, okay, it was like, you know, we had China and we had like communism, and that was like what we were working ourselves in the froth over. And if you update the concept, now it's Middle East and the Taliban, and that was like the iconography that was used for the Mandarin. And he was like, here's essentially just like a caricature of what you think a terrorist would look like. And I think that was what I think was so cool about the idea is like, and then like kind of twisting that on its head of like how you can then manipulate that image to work people into a froth, and how dangerous that is when you put that much power and just like imagery, you know. I thought it was really clever, like really clever. I was like, and Shane Black's a clever director.
Shane Black is a very clever director. Nice Guys as a whole is one of the smartest movies, I think, especially from a writing standpoint, I've ever seen. Unfortunately, it went over a lot of people.
I ride or die for Nice. It's having a renaissance though. People are coming back around on Nice Guys, but like that, I just thought it was really cool. And I had the same feeling when I watched, you know, Star Wars: The Last Jedi as I did with Iron Man 3, where I thought it was awesome, and then there was a huge backlash from like what I would call like the comic book nerds around.
The purists. I would say the purists. I call them the purists. Like if it deviates even a little bit from a panel, sometimes these guys get really frustrated. And sometimes I understand that. Sometimes it's just weird hang-ups that these people have about people that don't look like them. Yeah.
I just don't get it. Like I don't understand like why. And like I thought it was cool. I thought it was clever, and exactly what you want, like modern day interpretations, like why you make stuff now versus 30, 40 years ago. I thought it was really cool. And then also you still kind of get this all. You still get like it was. I thought it was even clever where they have like Wen Wu is like the actual leader of the 10 Rings, and he gets upset about it. I think it's really like it's some of the best writing not best, but it's very underrated writing. This whole like Trevor Slattery like world that he is at the center of, you know.
So there's no official confirmation of this. The only thing we have for sure to point toward this, that this is what Kevin Feige was trying to do and say that there was a real Mandarin out there and that the Ten Rings was not just an invention of AIM. They were their own terrorist organization. They made that little short film, All Hail the King, where Trevor Slattery gets broken out of jail by the Ten Rings because the actual Mandarin's like, what the actual fuck? And then we find out in Shang-Chi that he's like 1,000 years old, and he's been basically running a shadow empire in the East for a millennia or whatever, and then he gets into Ta Lo and the Chinese gods and all that, which by the way, technically that does mean Shang-Chi's half god.
Oh,
that is a new. Those guys are on the same playing field as Thor. Well, not Thor because he's a Sky Father, but
right.
Again, I'm gonna get sucked into gods of.
You know that though. It's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah. And then even Slattery mentions Ta Lo. He's like, when Simon asks him who's calling, he's like, oh, just an old buddy from this pocket dimension I used to live in. It's no big deal.
See, and I think that I feel like if there's a difference between like me, I'm definitely, and this is about Star Wars, but I think about there's not a lot of properties that I am a purist about. Like I think I'm more open to reinterpretations of any and all characters, and I don't really consider any character to be sacred. And I do feel like because it was the same with The Last Jedi. I feel like. And James Bond is another example of that one. I think a little bit more obvious, but yeah, I don't know. I know you love these characters, and I love Harry Potter, but it's not like I get mad if like these people. I don't know. I've never really quite understood that, and I'm always open to reinterpretations by smart, creative people. And I think that's kind of where I always land on these sorts of discussions, whether it be Last Jedi, Trevor Slattery, etc.
And comics have always been about this. We've always, even going back to the 70s when What If first started, like just a way to give people ways to do different interpretations of these characters. This is not the pure, if you want to see stuff about the actual 616, just go read the comics. That's what they're there for. Yeah.
Couldn't agree more with that.
But anyway, moving on for more from Wonder Man stuff, the main villain of Wonder Man is a kind of a long-running villain in the background of several of these Marvel shows and movies.
This is important.
The Department of Damage Control. And I think the Department of Damage Control is going to be very important for the next saga, for the mutant saga that's going to be coming up. They've been turned from what was just a cleanup organization in like the Phase 1. They were mentioned as Damage Control was mentioned in Iron Man 1. Phil Coulson says Damage Control is going to come down, clean up everything from Stain and the Highway and all that, and they're working on the story for you to say this was your bodyguard, you're not in the suit and all that, and then Tony's like, nah. And then Tony helps fund it after the Battle of New York, and we see that in Spider-Man Homecoming, where they're coming and cleaning up after the invasion and all that. But now, after the Sokovia Accords, they turned into just a place, or a group that arrests superpowered people that are, causing damage or, just not supporting American interests, depending on who's in charge. And we'll get a little more with that with Valentina when we talk about her. I think that the Department of Damage, I don't know if they're going to keep the name Department of Damage Control. I think it will be changed to a group called One, which is, if you read the X-Men, that is the U.S. government's department of basically just capturing mutants and holding them indefinitely. Which X-Men comics have always been, very pro-civil rights and anti-authoritarianism of just arresting people for being who they are and all that. And that's clearly where Department of Damage Control is is headed.
That's a good. Is that like kind of like essentially established at this point in time, or is that more of just like your like theory?
My personal theory is that it's going to turn into one, and they'll turn like super militant and like just cartoonishly evil, like where they're just like straight up killing people in streets and stuff. Because that is kind of how one is. Like,
Gotcha.
Yeah. And then we do have a new Department of Damage Control character popping up in the new Spider-Man movie, who's he's going to be part of Damage Control, but he's in the comics as he's a very vocal anti-mutant character, but he's not that big. He's usually like a lackey for General Stryker or something like that. Yeah.
Nice.
Remember Stryker? Stryker never fun.
What a guy.
Yeah. I really hope we get a good Stryker.
That's Brian Cox, isn't it?
Yeah. That was Brian Cox. Yeah.
Great. He was a good Stryker. Man, he was good.
I really hope they do the father-son duo of the Strikers, and not like they did in the X-Men, where the Stryker that's in the military is the son of a religious zealot who's like straight up thinks mutants are the devil. And to be fair, there is one time where he's actually kind of right about that. We'll talk about magic some other time.
Yeah.
But really, but Damage Control has been shown to be like the group that is taking care of what they just considered superpowered people, because they popped up in Miss Marvel too, and Miss Marvel is going to be a mutant.
Oh, that's right. I didn't know that. You've told me that before.
Or in the MCU, yeah, and she is in the comics now too. But that's a whole other thing. So yeah, they are being set up as the anti-mutant group, but my personal theory is that they're going to turn into one and just become like cartoonishly evil and over the top, like kind of like in X-Men '97 when those dudes overrun the UN. Yeah.
Shout out to X-Men '97, great show. I would say that okay, so that's good to know because, like you said, that's gonna when we start talking Phase 5 and 6 and beyond, like that's going to be amazing. The mutant saga, we'll talk about that later. But that's a really good call out because I didn't realize how much they were like setting the scene there.
Yeah, and Ben setting the scene.
Connection pieces. So calling them out is good, and I am glad that Wonder Man was able to do it because it was a good project, and it is fundamentally standalone. But the fact they had enough tie-ins just shows like at least they're trying to build something. Like at least there's someone behind the curtain, so to speak, pulling these strings. You know.
Yeah. Do you want to talk Daredevil?
I think we got to talk Daredevil.
All right.
My guy.
Because fucking Daredevil. It's just
Daredevil.
The best
Charlie
shit.
Cox.
Charlie Cox, just a genius.
Another podcast episode we could just do on our own is like the top 7 actors or actresses, like best Marvel performances ongoing, active, current, whatever. Charlie Cox.
He is Matt Murdock. Like, there's just no.
Like, I mean, if Chadwick Boseman is Black Panther, and what an act! Like, he is right there with you in terms of, like, I close my eyes, I see him, he's great.
Oh, I read Daredevil in Charlie Cox's voice now. Like, it's very, yeah. Most of the time, it's my own voice that I read it in, and I, do stuff. But like, Kevin Conroy Batman is always Batman in my head. Charlie Cox is always Daredevil in my head. Chris Evans is always Steve Rogers in my head. And RDJ is always Iron Man in my head.
Amen. So I love Daredevil. It's probably, I think Spidey's my number 1, but Daredevil's definitely in my top 5. He's just a great hero overall. Great story. I love Catholic imagery too. I'm always down for Catholic guilt in any sort of show. He's just great. Just a great character. Amazing character. So yeah, Tom, set the scene. One Daredevil, where we've been, where we're going. Really good. Daredevil's been lights out.
So yeah, originally Daredevil started on Netflix as a sort of standalone story set mostly just in New York, set shortly after the Battle of New York, shortly after the first Avengers movie. So that's kind of an important thing to figure out too. Like at that point, that battle actually serves as Kingpin's motivation to just be like, I'm just gonna fucking go for it. There's fucking aliens coming out of the sky. There's no rules anymore. I'm going to take this chaos and I'm going to start building my empire out of it.
Kingpin, great villain.
And he did that over the course of 3 seasons. It was phenomenal. I highly recommend anyone watch
one of the coolest
Daredevil on Netflix
shots in all of Marvel. One of my favorite shots in all of Marvel is when he's fighting through the hallway. It's iconic. I mean, it is so good. I know one-shots now have kind of been abused to death, and they're not as cool as they
That's
were.
a wonder, though. That's
it is a wonder. It is so good. It's so good for Daredevil because Daredevil. What it's very cool about Daredevil is he's not super strong. You know, like he's just not like his fight scenes are very gritty, and there's a real like toughness to it. Like even by superhero standards, he's just a tough motherfucker, and it's just like
he's a true boxer.
He is, and it so encapsulates. It's so man, it's one of my favorite shots in all of Marvel. That scene, it's in my top 5 for sure. It is so good.
Yeah.
It's just great. So yeah, but now we've started. It was those 3 seasons, and then they started this Born Again arc, which is one of the most famous Daredevil there's been.
And while they were doing the stuff on Netflix, they also spun off a bunch of shows with Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, and Punisher, which is very important for Born Again.
We'll get to that.
But I would argue that Born Again is actually a really bad title for this story because what they're really adapting is what's known as the Devil Reigns storyline, which is where Kingpin becomes mayor of New York, which obviously is a nightmare for everyone to think about, especially when you think about the fact that the dude, like in the previous Daredevil shows, which they establish as like a sort of canon, Wilson Fisk is a known criminal. He's a known mobster. He's without a doubt guilty by every notion that you can one of his primary villains always. Yes, absolutely. Matt Murdock has a deep hatred for Wilson Fisk, and that hatred makes him feel bad because of his Catholic guilt. He thinks he should be better than that, which is, a whole other. Yeah. But now he hates no one more than he hates Kingpin, and that's true. That's true in whatever version of Daredevil you want to say. I know that I just said that, let people do interpretations however they want. Anybody trying to do anything with Daredevil not fighting Kingpin, you're wrong. I'm sorry, you're wrong. In every universe, they butt heads. And something that this show has done really, both shows I would say have done really well, is just showing how similar those two people are.
Agreed. There's a really great scene in Born Again, the first season, where they kind of have, and the whole villain being we're not that different to the protagonist. You've seen it 1,000 times. I get it. But it does work here. And again, the other thing about Daredevil that I think is really special that we'll talk about is the casting. Marvel oftentimes has really good reads on their casting, but Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin, electric. I
read it in his voice.
He's so good. It's like the role he was meant to be, honest. He's such a good actor, and he's so good as Kingpin. And they're seeing it when they talk about how similar they are is really, really good. It's really good.
Yeah. God, I would have paid anything to be on set just for that day, just to see that scene and those two. And here's the thing: they're both classically trained actors. Don't forget that Charlie Cox has done a lot of theater. Vincent D'Onofrio has been in the business a long fucking time.
I mean, he was in Full Metal Jacket with Kubrick, and Kubrick just kind of plucked him. I mean, he's a super talent. He's just
Kubrick thinks you can do shit. That's all you needed. But yeah, so Daredevil Born Again Season 1 has been focusing. It's basically set just a couple of years after the first 3 seasons, or those first 3 seasons of Daredevil. Everything that else has gone on in the background of the MCU has happened. The blip, Thanos, all that. And they're just trying to... and Matt and his friends are just trying to live their lives in New York peacefully. At the start of the show, Kingpin's still technically in prison. If you want... it's also important to watch the Hawkeye and Echo shows before Daredevil, because that gives you a concept of where Kingpin's at, because he appears in both those shows. In Hawkeye, he's basically trying to restart his empire, and then in Echo, it's a little more personal for Kingpin. I like that. I liked Echo a lot, but pretty much just for Vincent D'Onofrio and Maya Lopez, who I thought was really good in it.
I don't think I saw one episode of Echo. I don't think I saw one.
It gets a little weird when they give her powers, but I do like Echo as a character. She was also created by Brian Michael Bendis, who wrote a legendary Daredevil run, which I would say that the Bendis run essentially helps set up the future for Mayor Kingpin.
Got
The Netflix series was much more inspired by like Bendis and Brubaker than the older Frank Miller stuff.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah, basically New York City. It's all set in New York City. It's focused entirely on them. Kingpin's running for mayor, and then we're just kind of establishing what New York looks like now in the MCU because we honestly haven't seen it since Spider-Man: No Way Home,
Which is crazy.
Which is insane to say about a Marvel show.
It is, yeah. I mean, yeah, that New York, it's just the center of a lot of Marvel stuff. So it's weird to be gone from here for this long. And season 1 was really good. Season 1 of Board Game was really cool. Character with Muse. That was a cool little guy. Yeah. I liked him. I thought he was a really dark character. I think, yeah, and like you said, Kingpin kind of accruing power was just so compelling.
Very Game of Thrones-y.
Yes, it is Game of Thrones-y, and it works for me. That's another thing I'm always in on. Someone accruing power, always in on that. Just a really good show. And, we haven't even called it out yet. We have Vincent D'Onofrio, great. Charlie Cox, great. John Barenthal, my dude.
Fucking phenomenal.
Also great. Fucking phenomenal as Punisher. And Punisher and Daredevil, too. Daredevil, I think why I like him so much as a character, not just his power set, not just the Catholic iconography, but also his relationships with Daredevil and Punisher are super cool. I love their interactions are some of also just great stuff for me. And I think
the show does that better than the comics, I would say.
Wow, yeah. That's a heavy take, Tom.
Yeah, that's probably my heaviest take. Is I feel like the relationship between Bernthal and Cox on that show is I wish I would see more of that in the comics. Although unfortunately, real life implications make writing a Punisher story just so hard nowadays because
it's tricky.
So many people just don't understand him. And as much as I don't like Garth Ennis as a writer, his Punisher run is phenomenal. And he did give us the moment of a bunch of cops wearing Punisher, like his logo, and being like, we really like you, we really respect you. And Punisher takes his gun and bops him in the face, breaks their nose, and says, no, I'm the only one that does this. I'm damned. I'm fucked. I know that. I'm just going to keep doing this until somebody gets me. Like, I'm just trying to take down as many people as I can with me because I can't do anything else. You still have hope. And if you need a role model, Steve Rogers is right fucking there. He was a cop too. He worked with you.
And I think that's what you're describing is why the Daredevil and Punisher relationship works so well is because the Punisher in the Marvel universe is kind of seen as a fucking sociopath. No one likes to fuck with
Nobody likes him. Nobody likes him. And he doesn't want to deal with them either.
Right. And he kind of there's this weird and again the Catholic guilt and this so Daredevil has this sort of dark core to him that he doesn't know how he should let out. And in a lot of ways, the Punisher almost appears to be the logical end state of Daredevil's spiritual de-evolution. And John Barenthal being on the end of that journey and Charlie Cox kind of looking over the precipice, it's just really good. And they both kind of know that. And there's just this natural tension point, but they're also working together so often. It's so good. I mean, it is really top notch. And then you have two great actors doing it too. It's lights out stuff. Again, some of the best relationship work in all of Marvel too is right there.
I'm really glad you said that because now I get to talk about Spider-Man for a second. In the storyline of Kingpin becoming mayor, and at this point he's already become mayor. Daredevil's pissed. He's like, dude. My entire city voted for my number one nemesis to be mayor. Why the fuck am I taking care of these people? He gets pissed, he gets sloppy, he gets angry, and he nearly beats a dude to death.
Yep.
He goes to his apartment afterwards. He's he's hanging out. He's just exhausted, beat, and Parker swings down, says, "Hey, you're done. You're getting sloppy. You're either getting old or you're angry. I don't care what it is. You almost killed someone. If you do kill someone, that's also on me. And it's on every one of us that does this. So I'm stopping you now before you fuck it up for everybody. If I see you out there, I'm webbing you up. And I'm making sure everybody else knows too." And then Matt Murdock has to, normally so stubborn and arrogant and I can do it. He's like, "Yeah, you're right." And he throws him his mouth. And then for like a 6-issue run, he's just Matt Murdock, which is always a cool little story to have. But I really think that he's kind of being set up for this moment, and I really do think that with Punisher being in the new Spider-Man, I think that'll give. I really hope that gives us an excuse to have Tom Holland come in and tell Charlie Cox like, hey, no, you're done. You're gonna end up like Frank, and I'm not gonna let that happen to you. So you're done before that happens. And I hope someone would do that for me too. And I hope if I ever get to that point, you can say that to me. All right.
Yeah, and like I said, I think, and you put it in the notes, and I just so agree. Like I think that's why Punisher, he's not super compelling as like a solo guy because there's really no like emotional like journey here. He's like, I'm a piece of shit. I murder. I kill. I'm getting knocked out like that. There's no like journey that he's on. He's a weapon of mass destruction.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just not a super compelling character arc. But when he's used in juxtaposition with other people on journeys, he's very effective in that setting. And Barenthal is he just chews a lot of scenery as an actor as is. Like he's a very like emotive, like he's just a big actor, like not physically, but actually like his emotions are big. So just really, I just love it. I'm so glad that they have it. And like I said, him working as like a secondary character in the Daredevil, I think, or in just any capacity, I think is where he kind of needs to live. And I think it makes sense for Barenthal. He probably doesn't want to do his own thing anyway.
No, I think the special presentation he's doing is a perfect, like, just 60 minutes, 45 to 60 minutes of Punisher just going off, doing his thing. It's interesting when he gets to talk about his parent or his family and whatnot and trying to take care of them in some way. But, Punisher doesn't have any recurring villains. It's Jigsaw, and that's only because people keep trying to bring Jigsaw back to life for some reason. And because he kills everybody. Arguably the best Punisher run is Garth Ennis's run, and the villains and all that are like drug runners and prostitution rings and guys like real life type of villains, and it's just him
wiping them out,
going to work. Yeah.
Like you ride or die for the Defenders. I think the Defenders are really cool, and there's a lot of really cool kind of New York localized heroes. I know you ride or die for who are probably going to be introduced in season 2, right? I mean, is that kind of what you're thinking? Let's just start there. Who's confirmed in season 2 versus is there anyone confirmed of like that ilk of character?
Only confirmation of like a Defenders character or anyone from the Netflix show right now, other than Charlie Cox and Dion Forio, is Kristen Ritter's Jessica Jones.
But she's for sure.
I'm not. I don't think we're even going to see Barenthal's Punisher in this season. I'm not sure.
Okay, interesting.
I think he really is just getting the special presentation, and I think that's building off his ending in Born Again. So, Kristen Ritter's Jessica Jones. Jessica Jones was a character created also by Brian Michael Bendis, my boy. He originally wanted to do a Spider-Woman Jessica Drew. For some reason, they didn't let Bendis write that story, so he had to pivot and create a new character named Jessica Jones, who ends up married to Luke Cage, which is a huge reintroduction to Luke Cage to Marvel for the first time since, honestly, the 90s? Like the early 90s? He had a Heroes for Hire run with Iron Fist that lasted, 5 issues or something. And then he just kind of been in limbo. But it was a huge reintroduction for him. When Bendis took over Avengers, he brought Luke Cage and Jessica Jones with him, and their kind of relationship is kind of like the B story constantly of his Avengers run. So they're very important to a lot of the storylines that Marvel has already done. Because Luke Cage was very anti-registration during Civil War. He becomes very, very racist towards Skrulls during the Secret Invasion. He probably hates them more than anybody else, especially when they kidnapped his kid. And he was a big thorn in Osborn's side when he took over S.H.I.E.L.D. So, Jessica Jones, she got a show on Netflix too, ran for 3 seasons. First season is phenomenal.
Amazing. Really good.
David Tennant as a villain, I could watch that all day.
He was so good in that. Man, he was good. So Jessica Jones's power set, I think it's worth getting into. Her power set's kind of cool. She's she's essentially so David Tennant. His character is essentially like a mind controller.
The Purple Man, yes.
Right. What was that?
The Purple Man. That's his villain name.
Yes, and they kind of like played it in a sort of like pretty compelling case around just like trauma and having like really just like a toxic relationship. It just works really well for kind of like the allegory of just being in a toxic relationship and how it's tough to get over. And it's just like her power set's cool. She kind of has like, she's not like a typical like just super strong guy. Kristen Ritter's really good in the role too.
She crushes it, especially as a character who's been like abused. So in the original comic run, they kind of retconned Jessica Jones to have always been a superhero in New York. She originally went by the name Jewel. She was one of like several hundred superpowered people that aren't Spider-Man, that occasionally team up with him sometimes. I mean, if you had a list of all the characters that spun off of like original Spider-Man comics, it'd be insane. She's also established to be, in the comics, a classmate of Peter Parker's, which is kind of cool.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. She, so she's known in Peter Parker's class as the Coma Girl because the accident where she ended up getting her powers put her in a coma for a couple months, and Jessica Jones doesn't take that too kindly from Peter. But, I mean, when doesn't Peter Parker put his foot in his mouth?
True.
Yeah. Seasons 2 and 3 of Jessica Jones, not that great. It's kind of hard without Tennant, although he does kind of pop up in the other ones as like a residual ghost of trauma. Because, spoiler alert, in season 1 she does end up killing him. Because, unfortunately David Tennant's character is one of those guys where if you haven't developed power dampening technology yet, he's kind of got to go. He uses pheromones to manipulate people into basically just do whatever you want. So if the Purple Man says, "Hey, give me all your money," you're just gonna be like, "Here you go, man. Happy to do it. I'd love to do that for you. What else you want?" And that makes a really great villain. And his own trauma and all that kind of too is really interesting, I think, especially from the idea of like, hurt people. Abusers are often been abused themselves, and that's a whole, I mean, we could do a whole pod about that too. But what was really important...
No, keep going, Tom.
Oh, I was going to say, what was really important about her show too is that it also introduced us to that version of Luke Cage, played by Mike Coulter. Yeah.
Who was great as Cage too. I mean, he's like perfect. Again, Marvel, when they if there's one thing Marvel's pretty much always been good at, it's casting.
Shout out Sarah Haley Finn. She's the GOAT when it comes
to
casting.
Nail it.
She's the best.
Not always. Yeah. Great hit rate on their castings. And I this was like the first season was really good. Really good allegory for just like being in a fucked up relationship. Kristen, it's a good. I didn't watch season 2 and 3, but that first season, man, was really good stuff for Marvel. Really good.
I would say that like season 2 and 3 could have been combined into a really good season if they'd focused more on Patsy Walker, that character in there who becomes Hellcat. Who's an Avenger and was at one point married to the son of Satan, which is insane when you also consider that she was a character that debuted in the 50s in what was essentially Marvel's competition for Archie Comics.
Oh, that's some lore. Holy shit.
The lore of Patsy Walker is insane. Insane. And I thought the show actually did a really good job of balancing most of that, except for, marrying the son of Satan.
Fair enough.
Which, maybe that's what season 4 would have been.
How, and I know we're how will Jessica Jones be involved in terms of, where do you see her storyline going exactly?
So in the Defenders show, they really established a good relationship between her character and Matt Murdock, and they have a natural sort of relationship to have too. She works as a private investigator after all this trauma and stuff. It's her way of kind of dealing with abusers in her own way. Like she helps people deal with their own. And a lawyer honestly kind of needs a private investigator to do stuff like that. Born Again established one, that ex-cop that he works with. So I unfortunately think something might happen to that character, causing him to need Jessica's help. But the thing is, where Jessica Jones goes, Luke Cage is usually not far behind. And both Mike Colter and Finn Jones, who played Iron Fist in the Netflix Defender saga, both were in New York when Daredevil Born Again Season 2 was filming.
Okay, so here's where we're going here.
Yes. I don't think they're going to be super involved in this season. I think, if anything, they might show up in the last 2 episodes of this season or something. And something really important about the Devil's Reign storyline is that when that concludes and they finally get Wilson Fisk out of office, the man to replace him is Luke Cage as mayor of New York. Most importantly, the first superpowered person to be elected to office, I think, at that point in the comics. It wouldn't be like that in the MCU now because now we got Senator Bucky.
Sure.
I think that lasted all of like 15 minutes for him. I think once he went off on his own to do a mission, they were like, yeah, no, we're going to impeach you for that. You're not allowed to do that. But yeah, so hopefully that means that we get a lot of Luke Cage and Iron Fist in Season 3. As bad as the Iron Fist show was on Netflix.
It was bad, Tom.
It was
bad. It's really bad.
It was bad.
You've always liked Iron Fist. You kind of described him as like Batman, right? Did you describe, or who did you describe, or maybe it was Moon Knight. Maybe it was Moon Knight you described as Batman.
Yeah, I would say Moon Knight is definitely like a fucked up Batman. But Iron Fist could be argued in a similar vein. He's very rich. Parents die. He does go off and train, except in this case he goes to a mystical city. I'm not even going to get into the lore of the Immortal Cities. It's insane. I highly recommend reading The Immortal Iron Fist and the Immortal Weapons by Ed Brubaker, who also wrote an incredible Daredevil run. And during that Daredevil run, Danny Jones fills in for Daredevil for a little bit.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yes. So at that point, so during the Bendis run, Daredevil's identity kind of gets leaked out, which would be a really interesting thread to pick up on in the Born Again series. Although it would kind of feel like a rehash of what happened with Peter Parker recently, I still would really like that to be run in some way, shape, or form. Especially,
but I still think it's cool.
No,
then you have like Daredevil as like an enemy of the state. You know what I'm saying? Because like with the Kingpin as mayor, like that's kind of a fun little storyline where it's like, you know, you're like, and it's cool. Like I know you did already do it, but it would just be a really cool way to frame Kingpin and Daredevil going against each other. Yeah. You know,
that would be. I mean, that'd be a cool like mid-season thing for Daredevil, or for or even like the end of that season to lead into Season 3. Especially because Matt has a lot of fun with that. After he gets like cleared as being Daredevil, a bunch of people still think he's Daredevil. So he literally wears a sweater that says, "I'm not Daredevil."
That's great. That's great.
Which I love when Matt Murdock gets jokey, because
yes, it's just not he's not a very light character. He's kind of intense. You know,
he's very.
So and then also you can't discuss like Marvel and MCU in New York without Spidey. Yeah. So this is where it gets real businessy, which I know Tom and I like to talk about this. Sony kind of owns Spidey. It's a rights issue. It gets complicated. So maybe Tom, fill people in on that and what you think this could be trending. Hopefully, it's kind of confusing for folks. Very weird.
So a big thing about the Spider-Man rights, they are fully owned by Sony. They do temporary deals with Marvel to allow Marvel to use just the Spider-Man character in Avengers movies or the Civil War movie. Those rights are very complicated. Technically, Marvel owns the rights to animated Spider-Man, which is how we got Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man as a show. And also, spoiler for later in the pod, I think that's going to end up being like kind of the status quo of where Spider-Man's at post Secret Wars. There's still a lot more to go with that show, but I do think that that's going to end up kind of becoming more of what Parker's storyline is after that.
Gotcha.
But I mean, even people that aren't aware of superhero stuff know that Sony has not done well with their Spider-Man properties. It's pretty much
They've done well
just
with
been
most
Venom.
superhero properties.
It's just the only one that's been remotely successful is Venom. I love the Venom movies. I acknowledge that they are also dumb as fuck, though.
They are dumb, but they're fun.
But they're fun.
Tom Hardy's
fun. God forbid a
Tom
movie.
Hardy's
Tom Hardy's a
miles an hour.
perfect Eddie Brock, in my opinion. Especially
He's
where
so
Eddie Brock
good.
is now, because as being more of an anti-hero than just a straight-up villain and just being a dick to Parker for no reason. I really like that, and I really do hope that Tom Hardy gets to continue playing Venom in the future, and that Venom actually gets to interact with more Marvel characters, because he's more than just, a Spidey clone. He served on the Avengers. He served with the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
I want more Venom. Although technically those were both Flash Thompson, but that's a whole other thing.
That's okay.
But Madam Web, one of the worst movies ever made. Total bomb. We've all seen that trailer. The man that studied spiders in the Amazon with my mom. Just, God.
It's terrible. Sony's just taken out. I mean, they've been just... And then they kind of tried to lean into just being a shitty movie maker, and that sucked too. And then
they tried to do that with Morbius when they re-released Morbius. They saw all the jokes about Morbius, totally misread the room, and they're like, yeah, we'll put Morbius back in theaters for you guys. It made like $10. Like 2 people went to go see it. And they both picked matinees. Yeah, it was dumb. And then we've got, Kraven the Hunter.
Oh, our boy. Your sweet, beautiful boy, ATJ. Man, that killed me. It looks great in the movie, though.
He just can't catch a break with Marvel. Like, they killed him in his first, MCU movie. They didn't even bring him back for WandaVision.
I know. It's a huge bummer.
It's a bummer. And I didn't even see Kraven, to be honest, but I listened to the How It Should Have Ended episode of it, and hearing Jason Mantzoukas just rip on how disappointed he was, and he's like, I can see the vision, but the execution is a big old shit. Like, just a big old pile of dog shit.
It was bad. I watched it because I love ATJ, but it was bad.
I will watch it eventually. I
know.
I just don't want to. I mean, I recently watched Fall Guy, and I loved him so much in that, especially like when Ryan Gosling's yelling at him, "Your brain needs glucose." For basic cognitive function.
So good, Fall Guy. He's great. I mean, anyway, we could do a whole pod on ATJ.
Yeah.
But regardless, Sony, Spidey...
So Sony's imploding when it comes to Spider-Man. Sorry, I got off the rails here, yeah. But rumor has it that after Brand New Day, they're finally going to let more and more... Or basically let Marvel have free reign on everything Spider-Man, and then just take 50% of the profits.
Which is it would honestly work for everyone. Like, they can't make good movies.
You can't make Sony sell the rights. Like, who would sell the rights to Spider-Man? Would Warner Brothers just go out and be like, you know what? I know we've got all the DC characters, but what if we gave Paramount Batman? No, you're not doing that.
No, you're right. You're so right.
It would be insane.
Yeah, so, at least, so it seems like a good win for everyone. It would be great. Now, Marvel could be unbound by, any creative sort of, issues they have with, making good. They're kind of bound right now what they can do, what they can't do,
There was a lot of people thinking that Kingpin would be in the new Spider-Man movie, which would make a lot of sense. It's set in New York. He's currently the mayor. It was weird that he didn't pop up in Thunderbolts as the mayor, which could mean that, over the course of season 2 and 3 of Born Again, which are technically supposed to take place before Thunderbolts, that, something will happen to him, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
But Dion Forio actually addressed this and said, I asked. I want to work with Tom really bad. And I was told that I can't. I can't appear on screen in a movie as Kingpin. Because Sony still technically owns the rights to Kingpin as a live-action villain. Because not only is he considered also a Spider-Man villain, Sony also used to own the rights to Punisher. And Kingpin is technically considered part of a Punisher villain as well. And, Fox owned Daredevil. They had a piece of Kingpin too. Kingpin's kind of been spread all across the studios for the 2000s and stuff. Because I do think like Thomas Jane's Punisher was supposed to technically be fighting a Kingpin lookalike.
Oh, really?
I think so.
That's funny.
Yeah, and then we all saw the Ben Affleck Daredevil, where he fights Michael Clark Duncan's Kingpin in that, which is a wild casting choice, but I thought that was a pretty good one for the time. For like 2003, that could have been a really good pick.
I agree. He was great. I liked Michael Clark Duncan in that role, to be honest. But yeah, so I think it would just be great to get Spidey in. I'm hoping they do it. It seems like a good win for. I know they'll never get rid of him, but like it seems like a good win for Sony to just kind of take this. Like, hey, we're never actually going to make money on this. Like, let's just give it up. We'll never make money. Like 50%. Give us whatever. It seems like a really good win for them. They're not a competent movie organization.
No, they're. This could be a whole other podcast, but I really think that like tech companies buying movie studios is really bad, and I think Sony should have been a example for everybody on why it's bad, because they have not been a super good studio. When's the last time something from Columbia Pictures actually was phenomenal? That wasn't, James Bond or Spider-Man. I haven't seen much of anything lately.
No,
I think they're just spread too thin as a company as a whole, and it just doesn't work.
But that's pretty much been it with the Spider-Man Daredevil. I'm excited for season 2. It should be really good. I actually think it's like I'm really excited for it.
I'm more excited for season 2 than season 1, because a lot of season 1 was retooled at first because Charlie Cox and Dion Forio was like, this doesn't really feel like our versions of those characters, and they went up the ladder, and I'm pretty sure they kind of went to Kevin Feige, and low-key kind of got a dude fired.
No kidding.
I think, because there was a different original showrunner for Born Again, and a different group of writers. So like the Muse storyline I know was written by them and stuff, and some of the Mayor Kingpin stuff. But like the first episode with anything involving Bullseye was added in later by Kevin Feige, I believe. I think that's what it basically was. Also, Wilson Bethel is Bullseye. Fucking phenomenal.
Amazing. I know. I didn't have to. I had a talking point on Bullseye, but just for he's been lights out too. Amazing.
And the camera work they do with him to show the difference between him being like under control and becoming Bullseye, I love that.
Oh, it's so good. I know. Cool. They've done a lot of good stuff. Bullseye. I mean, Bullseye's a really cool character, too, and it's nice that I thought Colin Farrell was okay, but like this is a way better interpretation. Way better. I mean, I like Colin Farrell, but
Colin Farrell's was really he really was more like a gun for hire. Wilson Bethel's is much more of like a dude that's like what I think the best Bullseye is, which is just a full-on psychopath, just like a dude that just loves murdering and murder for the sake of murder.
It's like the Rick and Morty guy, that assassin in Rick and Morty. He's like, I just love killing.
I just want to kill people.
I just love killing.
What is love killing?
It's really good.
Yes. So those are the upcoming projects for the MCU, not counting Spider-Man Brand New Day, which I would need an entire pod to talk about by itself.
Yeah, too long. Yeah.
But getting into just where Marvel Phase 5 is at, when technically we're into Phase 6, even though Phase 6 is only going to be like 9 projects, and how we got here as a mess, which from a casual perspective, I totally understand the confusion on what they need to watch and what's important for them to understand when it comes to Doomsday. Because a lot of people want to see Doomsday. A lot of people have been wanting a sequel to Endgame for a long time. And this is supposed to be, apparently, more of a sequel to Endgame than it is a culmination of everything that's been going on in Marvel. So it's...
Oh, that's good. That's good context.
Yes.
So I do think it's worth just going through like Endgame sagas and phases real quick too, Tom, because I think that can be a little confusing as well.
Yes. So the original Marvel storyline that started with Iron Man 1 and ended on Endgame. That's called the Infinity Saga. Basically, Kevin Feige figured out that Marvel Studios still basically held the rights to the core Avengers group, and decided, hey, I'm gonna make an Iron Man movie, I'm gonna make a Captain America movie, I'm gonna make a Thor movie, I'm gonna make a Hulk movie, and then I'm gonna make an Avengers movie. And that was the plan. That was the whole plan. That's all he had. And
Yep.
Pretty much everything since then has been him trying to like tie various storylines together. In the original Avengers, that Tesseract is not supposed to be the Space Stone. There is a actual artifact called the Cosmic Cube in the comics, and it is very tied into Red Skull and basically, and Thanos as well. Like, that's what Thanos first grabbed to try and do his plan of annihilating half of all life on Earth, before he went after the Infinity Gems. So it looks a lot neater now in retrospect than it probably was in the background.
Very fair.
A trend that Marvel unfortunately continued in their Phase 4 especially was greenlighting and filming movies without a full script.
Bad idea. It hardly ever works. Movie studios, Stranger Things did this too.
Mm-hmm.
It's a kiss of death. It's a kiss of death. Whatever you start, I mean, it's honestly not all that different from in my job. Like, we build software, and sometimes we'll just build without a design. It'll just be like, oh, just kind of do some shit. It never works. Everyone makes this mistake. It never works, and we'll continue to make this mistake until the dawn of time. You start filming a movie without a script, it's just the chances of it being good are almost 0%.
Yeah, and the problem is that they did kind of get away with it with Iron Man.
Yes, no, you're right. You're totally right.
And that it was almost, and they kept getting away with it for so long, and got really lucky with a lot of the talent they got, especially when you look at Phase 1. Jon Favreau was a established director. He was someone that people knew. Kenneth Branagh, very established director. Joe Johnston, super established director. Captain America: The First Avenger is essentially the Rocketeer, but with instead of a jetpack, he's got a shield. It's almost the exact same.
Yes.
And Joss Whedon, also a well-known name, and also somebody who had already worked in TV as well, which I think Kevin Feige was seeing, like, okay, that's actually what I've built here at Marvel Studios. Accidentally, I feel like.
Totally.
He's essentially running the longest-running TV show with the biggest budget of all time. And that's where we get... That's where we get Phase 4, I would say.
Yes, and I think it's worth calling out what you're saying, where you got really lucky with talent, right? I mean, Chris Evans is Captain America, RDJ is Iron Man, did fundamentally form, like, the emotional core of that first saga of the Infinity Stones. I mean, those guys are great. Everyone loves them. We'll talk about Steve Rogers coming back, which is complicated to me. But it was really good. Like, the talent was top-notch, the movies. And, like, I think you're dead right where I think that it's kind of like a super talented team where the coaching might not be as good as you think, but the players are so good that it doesn't really matter. And it kind of feels a little, when you look back, you like to think that it was a lot more thoughtful, and there certainly were moments of it, but a lot of it was just very talented people doing really good work, like individually, that made it feel like there was a story there, you know?
Yeah, I'd especially say, like, the Russos in particular, they're a big part of, like, why it worked so well. And I feel like they just happened to get lucky with a story that they had probably been trying to make on their own since they were like 6 years old. Like, the Russos are huge Marvel nerds. They had probably been percolating about their own ideas for a Marvel story their entire lives. So it's... I don't want to say that, finding talent is all luck or whatever, because we just shouted out Sarah Haley Finn for all her casting choices, but it was a lot of people doing the right thing at the right time. And unfortunately, in Phase 4, COVID hits.
Yep.
The start of the writer's strike kind of hits. Although that was more into Phase 5. And it's just, and not to mention the Disney CEO trying to flood the zone.
Right. But it's also worth calling out that Marvel's phase, like that saga, the Infinity Saga, was a money printing machine. And in this, like, you can never forget, like, how important it was that Marvel had seemingly, like, cracked the code. it's hard to make, especially in this day and age, it's hard for a movie to make money. And Marvel, after it pays its distribution and all the overhead costs, every Phase 1 or Infinity Saga movie was printing $100 million in profits. That's everyone gets paid, and then you get $100 million in profits to just divvy up among who you. I mean, it's crazy in this day and age that you could just hit a button, and that's their least profitable. The Endgame made $700 million in profits.
Yeah,
is what like. That's almost 700. I mean, probably 600 after, I kind of underestimated, but
yeah,
that
because they
is
don't
so.
count marketing as part of it. But yeah.
What was that?
Well, a lot of like to be considered profitable, they take the budget and then subtract it from box office. A lot of people don't consider the marketing in that as part of like the equation.
But I took global box office, included the distribution rights, so it's about 45% once they pay all the distributors for like showing the movie in the movie. And then they put like the marketing budgets, and I still, I mean, I was on my research. It was like close to $700 million in profit after everyone. I mean, you can't overstate how powerful Marvel was at this time coming out of the Infinity Endgame saga. Like it was the money printer, baby.
And here's the thing,
and that's why they flipped the zone.
If you just look at the movies right now. If you take away the Infinity Saga and look at just like just phases 4, 5, and Fantastic Four First Steps, it's still the most profitable franchise of all time. It's still more profitable than James Bond. It's still more profitable than Harry Potter. Even with like a lot of mid stuff, they're still able to print money.
Right.
It's just not. I think now would probably be like considered $400 million instead of the $700 million.
Yes, and I think that's like what we're saying is that run of that Endgame, the Infinity Saga was legendary. Like it will, like movie theaters will be looking at that, or like studios will be looking at that run as just like it changed the game. Like so, and like that's why. That's why Phase 4. I mean, you wrote it down, Tom. Do you want to go through, like, just briefly review all the characters that hit in Phase 4?
Yeah. So Phase 4, and Kevin Feige has come out and said this. He really wanted Phase 4 to be like what he wanted Phase 1 to be if he had been given the unlimited budget that he now has. And he just introduces basically every single Marvel character that hadn't been debuted yet. So if we're looking at characters that just debuted in Phase 4, that's Black Widow, that's Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, No Way Home, Eternals, Shang-Chi, Thor, Love and Thunder, and Wakanda Forever. We've got Yelena, who's arguably the new face of the MCU. We got Red Guardian, Taskmaster, Valentina de La Fontaine, who has also been in more MCU movies lately than Sam Jackson. Yep. She's kind of been like the evil Sam Jackson of this saga. Shang-Chi and his supporting cast of characters. The Eternals, which also, by the way, it only ever got made because Chloe Zhao was like, I want to make this movie, and I just want an Oscar, so I'm going to go do that. And Kevin Feige was like, I can't really say no to an Oscar winner, so why don't you just go make it? And that's a whole other thing. We can talk about Eternals later. She-Hulk, U.S. Agent, the new Falcon that we're going to see in Avengers Doomsday, Namor, and all the Atlanteans in Wakanda Forever, which I thought was probably the best movie of that phase, either that or Shang-Chi. Black Panther, Shuri is the Black Panther we've got now, and now we've got M'Baku as King of Wakanda. We've got Photon from WandaVision, Hercules, Jane Foster's Thor, the Midnight Suns were teased as coming soon, and we've got the Young Avengers coming as well. Like it's
crazy,
insane the amount of people that they debuted, as opposed to just debuting Iron Man, War Machine, Captain America, Thor, Hulk, Hawkeye, and Black Widow. 7 characters, or Nick Fury, 8 characters versus
24.
I feel like
and I
splits
think
off
what
25
you're
names.
saying is like, what I think makes Phase 4 so interesting is usually there is a real like conflict. Oh, and this is what I think makes movie making so interesting is because you have a real conflict with the business guys who are like, I just want to print money. I want to make money. And then you have your creatives. And like in Phase 4, it felt like the first time where the creatives and the business people were almost aligned, where the business people were like, guys, these movies make so much fucking money. Just we will greenlight whatever comes through that door.
Yes, that's how Eternals gets made. Yep.
and then you have the nerds, the creatives who are like, sweet, I get to tell all of the stories that I've been wanting to tell. And then you just have like it got so big and it got so, and I think that like you get into it and you don't have as much time as you thought and things are getting rushed, and it is just a really phase 4. I think you could just do like I would just love to read a book on phase 4 of someone who like 600 pages on like how everything is going, because it must have been a clusterfuck.
Getting the
a
chance to like interview every director from that saga, Kevin Feige, Sarah Haley Finn, and like just a bunch of other like, because also interestingly, this is the first time that like Kevin Feige starts to give up more control during phase 4, just part of phase 4. He starts having more producers getting involved in like overseeing films. He really enjoys the experience of making Multiverse of Madness because for the first time since phase 1, he doesn't have to sit over the shoulder of the director to make sure they're doing everything okay. Because Sam Raimi's a fucking master. He's just like, hey, this is what I want, Sam, and Sam's like, got it. I'm going to do my own little twist on it, obviously, but I will give you, I will hit all the beats you want and do exactly what you need, and I will run the production on time, which is also very key, because when you don't have a script, like with most of these movies that were getting made, they ran over time, they ran over budget, and that's why you get a lot of shitty effects in these movies too, is because by the time they finish filming, it's like we got to release in 6 months. And that's not enough time for a digital effects studio nowadays. Nowadays, they need like a year, which is why a lot of the movies after that keep getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back, which also lends into the feeling of not as much connectivity.
Yes, 100%. And I do think so. So that's phase 4. It's a bit of a mess. We kind of want to move past it. But then you get into phase 5 and 6. Where phase 6 has just started, but phase 5 is just completed. Therefore, phase 5 does feel like a correction. Like I do feel like things are starting to get aligned,
especially on the show side. I'd say.
Well, on what?
The like Disney Plus show side.
Yes, agreed.
They released. I think there were only really like 3 live action shows shot during phase 5. We got Ironheart. We got Agatha All Along. Actually, that might be it for the live-action shows. I think it really was just those 2 shows.
Wow. Which, see, and that, I think, has helped. I think, like, less TV has helped. And that's why I think it's tough, though, where Phase 5, definitely things are getting into a state, but then we haven't even discussed yet. So Phase 5, things are getting better, and then we have the Jonathan Majors stuff, which is, it really hurts. It really hurts. I mean, like, because again, it's important when you compare these. It's always, I think, as good reference points as the previous saga. Previous saga, Thanos. They're building to him the whole time. He's kind of always the anime does this really well too. When it's like, here's the big bad. We're doing all these minor fights, but we know we have this big bad in the shadows. It's a really effective tool. Works in everything. And Thanos, and that was supposed to be, hey. Yeah. And then Jonathan Majors has the domestic abuse stuff, and that is really hard. That's still like the. It's unfortunate because they couldn't control it, but it is the one major blemish in Phase 5 on a phase that really starts to feel like it's starting to find its footing a little bit, and
especially
it's
during Quantumania. Like as much as that movie had issues, it did at least make us feel like we're building more towards something because of Loki, because of the idea of the incursions in Multiverse of Madness and No Way Home, which, by the way, those were supposed to be released differently.
Yes,
and it's a whole other thing. Like Doctor Strange was supposed to come out first and introduce the multiverse, and the events of that film were actually supposed to lead into No Way Home, and why those characters are coming through, or why the multiverse characters are coming to the main MCU.
Great point, Tom.
Yeah.
But it is tough, and so like you said, like Quantumania movie had its faults. It has probably one of the worst stills of all time in Marvel with the fucking Patton Oswalt as the Brainiac. I mean, it's a tough. And then like, yeah.
No, that's Corey Stoll. Patton Oswalt voiced him in a actually really good animated MODOK show, which I would recommend. Not connected to the MCU at all, but yeah.
Yes, right.
Yeah, Corey. God. As much as I
Yeah.
liked the idea. I love MODOK. I liked that idea of making Yellow Jacket as MODOK. But he should have been angrier. He should have been like, they should have been like, oh, I can barely recognize you, Darren. Like, you're really fucked up, and then he would just scream at them about murder and stuff, because that's what MODOK does.
I know, it's tough. And so Quantumania goes through there. It's in that Kang is just, it sucks because Jonathan Majors is super talented. He's, he was really hot. He would have made it great. He would have had the weight that like Thanos and Josh Brolin had.
And honestly,
and it's just hard. Like
it would have been more. It was more of a plan than Thanos had. Thanos was tacked on at the end of Avengers because Joss Whedon, that's his favorite villain.
Yeah,
they were like, we need to have someone like have controlled Loki in this movie. And Kevin Feige's like, who do you think we should do, Joss? And he's like, Thanos. I want to do Thanos.
Great, and that's a great point. And again, like they just kind of stumbled into it, and it worked. And now it's like, so now we have the Kang thing happens, and now we have to pivot to RDJ Robert Downey Jr. as Doctor Doom. So now you're kind of like, that's like the one thing where the phases, like the individual movies in Phase 5, I actually, for the most part, think are pretty good. Actually, Brave New World, I think, is a bit. Brave New World and Quantumania are big misses, but everything else.
Yeah, Guardians
Marvel's
3.
Dude. Marvel's is weird because people. Marvel's got unnecessarily maligned. Like the people just had their pitchforks out for that one.
True, and not to mention, like they couldn't do any press for it because of the strike. Like it got no promotion whatsoever. I guarantee you that there are thousands of people that watched that movie on Disney Plus later and like, well, shit. Why didn't I hear about this in theaters? Was it a Disney Plus only release and shit like that? People aren't as connected to it as like you and I are. That to know when it's coming out.
Yeah, exactly. So but the Phase 5, so you have those, but then Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, really good.
Beautiful.
Deadpool and Wolverine, fun. I'm not as probably into Deadpool, but I do think it's really good. Brave New World was a miss. It just was. I'm really bummed out by it. I just don't think it was very good.
Yeah,
I really don't.
It's aged poorly. Aside from real world implications, like I liked it less and less. When I do I will have to rewatch it at some point, and I'm not looking forward to it like I am Wakanda Forever or the Marvels or Thunderbolts and First Steps.
Yeah, and that's the thing that's a bummer because like, yeah, and like I like Sam Wilson too, and I liked his
Anthony
like interpretation. I just think it just, that movie makes me sad. Of all of the projects, I think that movie makes me the most sad in terms of like, I feel like that movie should have been better. Like, I think Quantumania got undone by the King stuff. That was a bummer.
That's out of their control.
And then the Marvels.
This one felt like meddling to fuck it up.
Yeah, exactly. So, but then but Thunderbolts was really good. The Thunderbolts was good, and like, and then they made it the New Avengers, and I would ride or die for Florence Pugh. So it just, Phase 5 was, and then I liked Fantastic Four too. But it was so. They're getting there, is what I'm trying to get at. Like there is a moment where something is moving here,
I'd say like, I really wish that Thunderbolts and First Steps had made more money, and I'm starting to think if they had made more money, I'd be a lot more confident in Doomsday and stuff, and then the future as well. I just don't know if that money's not being made because people aren't resonating with the film, or they're just not resonating with film, period. Like just going to movies.
Right. And this is a great point to call out because, again, like we said, the first movies, the first saga made so much money. These Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four in particular, every calculation I've read is Fantastic Four probably lost money, unfortunately. Like there's really no it's a thin margin, but I think it like either just barely broke even or did lose like at least $100 million. Like no more than $100 million, but. Correct. Like I think your most generous interpretation is it breaks even. Your worst interpretation is it lost 100 mil. I would put it at lost about 50 million, which is again like not terrible, but again like the business guys aren't like. And Thunderbolts didn't exactly do super well either. Thunderbolts is kind of maybe lost more, but definitely
I would almost say like best case scenario, Thunderbolts made 100 million profit, and worst case scenario broke even. Like it's almost the exact same scenario.
So it's just tough. It's just tough where it's like, and that's what you're saying, Tom, where it's like, how does this kind of affect the juice of these movies going forward? And the thing is they have Spider-Man coming. And Spider-Man is as big a lock at the box office. I mean, every single movie is just a money printer. So I do anticipate the vibes changing. Everyone loves Spider-Man. The last Spider-Man movie people really liked. So I do anticipate the vibes changing here. You have a win with Wonder Man. You have a win with Spider-Man. What's interesting to me is how do you think Spider-Man will connect into the Doctor Doom, Secret Wars? Like, where do you see this, like, its connection points being as it, like, sets up these next movies?
I'm really, really curious about that, actually, because
Me too.
there's a lot going on in this movie. So we know that Mark Ruffalo's Bruce Banner will be in it, despite him saying he's not going to be in it. He was photographed on set, and the leaked trailer seemed to show him. He might not be Hulk in this movie. I would not be shocked if he's just Banner in this movie, which would be really cool because Peter's a big nerd, and he'd be like, "Oh my god, the premier scientist of my generation is talking to me. Holy shit!" Which would be cool, and Banner would love that because he's like, "Oh my god, someone loves me for not being the Hulk." Number 2, John Barenthal's Punisher is in it, which is interesting. Which is really interesting in so many ways because. Like, I really doubt that anyone from the Defenders is going to be involved in Doomsday. They'll probably be involved in Secret Wars in some way, shape, or form. Because I think everyone's going to be involved in Secret Wars in some way, shape, or form.
Correct.
And then at the same time, there's also Sadie Sink playing an unknown character who may or may not be Jean Grey, which would be kind of interesting. But
Makes sense for her to be Jean Grey.
If she's a Jean Grey from another universe that gets stuck here, that would be an interesting way to tie it into the multiverse storyline, or to keep it more small scale and help introducing mutants. We've got Department of Damage Control involved in it, and we don't even really know who the main villain is of Brand New Day yet. I've heard a rumor today that it might be the Jackal, and they might be setting up the Clone Saga. Trying to do the Clone Saga on screen would be a bold fucking choice from Kevin Feige. Bold fucking choice.
I'm not a big fan of the Clone Saga, to be honest with you.
No one is.
It's kind of weird.
It's so weird.
It's an unsettling storyline. Yeah, it's tough with Spider-Man because like I said, I think it would be. There's like a world where obviously you have to have these like major, universe implications, but also like it feels like where the last Spider-Man ended, you kind of had like a lower stakes reset a little bit, like he's like in college. It's like, it just feels like, it's going to be hard to kind of like, I think, tell like this Spider-Man story in like kind of more localized New York City. He's in college now. He's got, like the kind of smaller personal stakes, which is what makes Spider-Man so good. But then you also have like, it has to do a lot of legwork, I think, because you have Doomsday coming and then Secret Wars right after. Like, it's just, it's it'll make a lot of money. I just wish that there was at least 1 or 2 movies in between Spider-Man Brand New Day into Doomsday. That would make me feel a lot better personally about the Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, I understand that from a business perspective. I think Kevin Feige really, really, really just wants to push through to the soft reboot. That is the new universe after Secret Wars, which, as much as people might freak out about that, that is the best path for Marvel to go forward. To be able to really to start telling the full story of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because they didn't have the X-Men, they didn't have Spider-Man, they didn't have the Fantastic Four to start, and those are really crucial characters to tell a lot of these stories. Like, as much as I love Captain America Civil War, it does feel a little weird without the Fantastic Four in it. And them being split down the middle as well.
And I also think you're bringing up a good point. And this is kind of as I was doing this research for the pod, what was kind of speaking to me as I was reading more about this soft reboot, which again, the concept of soft reboot happens all the time in comics.
Right.
And it does feel like they're almost like, I'm a little concerned about it because like what you're saying is it does feel like we're almost rushing a little bit just to like, we feel like this saga's been a bit of a miss. We got hit on a bunch of different ways. Let's give them an Avengers movie. Let's introduce Doom. And we're almost going to kind of like compile all of these assets so that we can really start telling proper stories in the next saga. It does feel a twinge like that to me, because like the fact that we're just going Avengers Doomsday, Avengers Secret Wars after Spider-Man is kind of nuts in my mind. I think that's like a really, it just seems really rushed,
It does. I still can't believe we haven't gotten Doctor Strange 3 yet. And
that's like
Shang-Chi should have had a sequel by now, to be honest.
yes.
The more I think about it, sometimes I think Brave New World should have been a Shang-Chi movie in some way, shape, or form.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I sometimes there are times where I feel like I'd almost rather have that. But I do know it's also very important to set up where the Avengers are at currently, and I think Brave New World, for all its faults, does at least do that. It tells us where the Avengers, that there is not an official Avengers team right now. It is really kind of just Sam Wilson going off doing his own thing, and then Thunderbolts kind of serves as like a spiritual sequel to that in terms of like what's going on with the Avengers.
Yes.
But again, I would say 4 years too late, just like Wonder Man. We needed that.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah.
I really think you're right about like the Doctor, like, or needing another Doctor Strange movie, because like the other thing I think is hard about this saga is that you don't have your A team, right? Like you don't have Rogers, and you don't have RDJ, and you don't have Thor, and so I feel like theoretically, I think it could have been better. I think a good person to at least include would have been Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange. Like, he feels like a guy that could have been leading a little bit more in this saga.
Yeah, it seemed like he was being in No Way Home.
Yes.
It was weird that we didn't get more of him.
That's kind of how I do. That is a bummer for this saga, and I think that explains why Doomsday now they're bringing Rogers back, and it feels very much kind of like a desperate sort of. We don't have a lot of emotional core right now at this movie, so let's bring back a guy we know everyone loves. And I'm excited to see him back, but as a sort of like what I think Marvel thinks internally when they bring out Steve Rogers and Chris Evans as Captain America, it feels a little bit like them recognizing that they just don't have the emotional core that they need, which is it'll impact the movie. Like, it just won't have the same emotional weight as the first Endgame, as the Infinity Saga.
Yeah. No, I completely agree.
And it's going to be tough. And like, so I think, and that's a bummer in it, but again, it's just been and that's why I think it's sad, where I think people like shit on this saga, and I don't think it's fair to shit on it. I think there's been good moments throughout all of this. I just think that like, there's just been some things, like the big rocks, they just haven't quite nailed, and then the King stuff it was rough. I think that and I feel bad for him in that sense too,
Yeah. I'm always a fan of, I don't like to judge anything until it's done. So like I will never rank a TV show in my personal rankings until it's finished its very last season, with notable exceptions being like Family Guy, Simpsons, and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. They've just been running so long that you could argue there's like 3 different endpoints for both of those shows that have already happened, and then they kind of do a new show. Having said that, I don't feel like this saga has been all that worse than the Infinity Saga.
Agreed.
And that's hard to... I mean, the thing that really sells the saga is the cap-off of Infinity War and Endgame, because those are really like the 2 best movies of the whole saga.
Totally. They are.
I mean, Winter Soldier is arguable on there. Iron Man 1 is arguable on there. Guardians 1 is arguable on there. But, like, without a doubt, those other 2 are for sure in the top 5. Everybody's top 5.
Everyone's top 5. Yeah, that's the thing. There's just no doubt about it. Like, if you don't have them 1, 2, there's no way you have them outside your top 5. There's just no way. Absolutely.
We can't really judge that until we get to Doomsday. And...
Correct.
There's so much other stuff that's gone into it with the shows and stuff. Not to mention that we do have another show coming out before Doomsday, which is Vision Quest, which is supposed to wrap up the WandaVision trilogy with Agatha All Along, which I loved Agatha All Along. I love Wiccan. Billy Maximoff as a character is such a good character. And have you read the Young Avengers run, like from the 2000s?
No.
They get a 12-issue series to start, and that's basically set right after Avengers Disassembled, when the team breaks up, and basically shows the formation of the Young Avengers, which is just like a new generation of Avengers. and then they get a series of short runs like set during each event. So there's like Young Avengers Civil War, Secret Invasion,
Gotcha.
Siege, and so on. And it just has them interacting with the main Avengers. He's one of the main characters of that. He's got a great storyline through that, especially trying to find his brother Tommy, learning that he's essentially the reincarnation of Wanda and Vision's dead kids, and their whole storyline's phenomenal. Him meeting Teddy as Hulkling, who we still haven't gotten yet, which frustrates me, but we'll get there, I think, someday. And yeah, so Vision Quest will wrap that up. It's supposed to apparently give us Speed, like the grown-up version of Tommy. Wiccan's supposed to appear in it, and I think we're even going to get a character named Vision, who is a big member of the Champions, which kind of served as like the post-Secret Wars version of the new Avengers.
Gotcha.
So that whole storyline should be wrapped up, and then getting ready to like launch off with a Champion/New Avengers team post-Secret Wars.
Gotcha. And see, and what you're describing here, it's and like you didn't even touch on like the like I think it's important that we haven't even touched on like the X-Men really, and now that like they're kind of like getting into the fold. Like there's just I think you're dead right that there are a lot of really good things that can happen post, and like we have some good stuff still here. Like I really do feel like you said I think people are going to be more surprised than they think with like Doomsday and Secret Wars, especially if Secret Wars 2 ends up being 2 movies where they're like, whoa, this actually worked a little bit better than I thought it would. Because I think that like it's just been shit on because I think it doesn't make as much money, and there have definitely been some real misses too. But I think that people have almost over-indexed on the misses and under-indexed on the makes, and I think they'll be more surprised than I think. That's kind of where I'm landing. Where like don't just write off Doomsday and Secret Wars because I think there's more here that is good than people think.
Right.
And
as much I'm frustrated that my boy Victor hasn't gotten the build-up he really deserves to be a villain in this.
Correct.
I was really hoping to see him in some way, shape, or form in Fantastic Four, other than just Franklin playing with his mask. Because Victor Von Doom, in my mind, is the greatest villain of all time. He is... He is the shit. He goes out of his way to learn everything he can to be the best he can be, and he truly believes that there is no one better than him to run the world. He doesn't do these things because he is like, he just wants power or anything. He looks at all of us dumbasses. He's like, you poor idiots. I will guide you and make sure that you are doing, like, I will give you the best life possible if you just let me control every aspect of the world. And like,
yes,
Latveria is a place that has more social programs than almost anybody than people realize. It's a big notion in the comics a lot that the people of Latveria a lot of them do genuinely love Victor Von Doom and hate the Avengers and think that they're messing up their country.
And there is a real world where, like, and I think that's a compelling case for his character. It gives his villain more depth too, and like his relationship, obviously, with Reed Richards is really good too. It's just like, I have more. And RDJ as Doctor Doom will be fun. Like that's another thing. He's going to be really good in that role. Like it's so I am. There are misses. Like there's just no doubt about it. There are misses in this saga, but I am. Like, after I was doing this research, I did almost come away, like, more hopeful, I think, surprisingly. I was like, okay, I think there's enough here. And like you said, like, Agatha all along was good. Like, I liked Agatha all. Like, there were legitimate good wins in this series, for sure. And so I'm really, like you said, you can't judge it till it's done. And I just hope people go in with an open mind on it,
Yeah. And I think, for the most part, people will for Doomsday because, one, the Avengers name is just really, really beloved. And two, one of the smartest things I think Disney is going to be doing with this is re-releasing Endgame shortly before Doomsday comes out in theaters. Like, people will have the opportunity to go see Endgame in a theater again and I think that's a right way to try and build up hype for this, especially if it's supposed to be more of a sequel to that movie than the saga as a whole. I think Secret Wars will probably be more of a sequel or more of the cap off than Doomsday will. I would really like Doomsday to be a much more contained story where Doom wins, and then we get our Secret Wars movie, which either make a 3.5-hour movie or give me 2.5-hour movies. Take your pick, Marvel.
Yes.
And then, get everything after that. Yeah.
And I do think, honestly, the splitting of the movie will a lot be determined by how these perform, how Spider-Man does, how Doomsday does. If those movies pick up some steam, they will definitely be like, well, let's make 2. And if it misses, I could see a real world, they're like, fuck it, let's take the L here a little bit, so to speak. We'll do it, and then we'll start fresher. So we'll see. That will be an interesting. That'll be interesting to see, like, if they split or not, because I do think that'll say a lot about how they think about this.
More unfortunate business talk. They unfortunately can't do that. They can't wait to see how Spider-Man goes.
You're so right.
No, they legally can't. Like, for the shooting schedule and stuff. You're right. Yeah, like so there's been a delay in them shooting Secret Wars right now, which is what's fueled the rumors that it's being split in half. Because you can't just go film a movie and then decide halfway through, actually, no, we're making 2 movies. You can't do that anymore.
Right. You're right, Tom.
With union contracts and all that shit, you have to figure that stuff out ahead of time. It's just a very complicated situation. I trust the business side of Marvel to, hash that out and figure out what they need to do for that. Because at the end of the day, as dysfunctional as Marvel can be at times, it's still a pretty well damn run business.
Yes. No, you're right.
There's no denying that. The interesting thing for me is what they do in between those 2 Secret War movies. Because I'd give my left nut for an animated Battle World show that's kind of set in the same vein as What If, and it's just showing stories set on Battle World where that don't have anything to do with, like, the main saga, which is a lot of what that comic did with Bendis's Hickman, with the Hickman Avengers run, and Secret Wars, where we had the main story of Secret Wars where the 616 characters come and they fight their doom, but in the background you have, the world from Maestro's Hulk as off doing their own thing. We've got the Marvel Zombies part off doing their own thing, and some of those storylines do converge together at the end of Secret Wars, but it was kind of cool just to see, like, basically Marvel just canceled all their ongoing runs and said, now your story is set on Battle World. You have the same cast of characters, but now it's set on Battle World.
See, that's a nifty idea. I like that.
Yeah. But that would also be, if they were going to do that, they would have probably already have to, like, be in production about it, and we would have heard about it in some way, shape, or form. So unfortunately, I don't think that's going to be a thing.
Yeah. Man, if we just ran Marvel, it'd be way better,
Yeah, we would crush it. We wouldn't lose anybody.
I'll do it for free.
We'll do it for free.
Yeah, it's yeah. Well, Tom, I gotta hop. It's noon here.
Whew.
But it's been a great pod. We got a lot to cover. Hopefully, Doomsday's great. I'm like I said, we talked so much about Marvel stuff. It's been a tough time, I feel like, to be a Marvel fan. Like, I feel like you're kind of always having to defend them. It seems these days
much more. Yeah, I that's how I feel a lot, especially going on Reddit.
What?
Especially going on Reddit, like, I just keep seeing stuff where, like, I don't comment on Reddit a lot, but I've been tempted way more lately than I've ever have before.
Yeah, but you know what? We'll still fight the good fight. I will say this though, it was nice to kind of, like, go deep. It was kind of nice to prepare for this and, like, kind of go through and do the research. Like, it kind of, like, it really did synthesize my thoughts about Marvel. It was just nice. It was just nice to do. I think our next pod. What do we have for? Are we to do?
I think we're doing.
Are we to do Academy Awards?
Well, when
career
coach or Academy Awards? Yeah.
know. We gotta wait for Academy Awards because I'm behind. We're gonna do an Academy Awards, but that's not coming out. But our next one will be Career Corner. Tom and I are gonna be picking two actors or actresses each, right?
I might pick a director for one of mine, to be honest.
But
I really
director
liked
for career-
Begonia, and I want to talk about I can't pronounce his name, but
You're talking
Yantos.
about Yorgos.
I kind of do. I'd have to watch a bunch of his other movies first.
Career Corner for a director is interesting. Okay.
But yeah,
Well, let's talk.
I might talk about him.
Okay. I think my Career Corner. Should I review? I'll hold on to mine. But my Career Corner for one is she's very popular right now, and I can't wait to talk about her. Did I tell you who it was?
Yeah, you told me. Yeah. I actually did see a comparison the other day that I actually thought about talking about.
Idea, I'm gonna be pissed. What was the? Don't tell me who it is, but tell me who the comparison was.
The comparison was to Sabrina Carpenter.
Okay, good. This is not it. Okay, mine's
Okay.
better. Okay,
Okay.
cool. Well, yeah. So we'll be doing Career Corner, which I'm really excited about. Which is again, we did it a little bit where it was like we just take two people and like what they need to be doing next, projects they should consider, roles they should consider, actors or actresses they should model their careers after, etc. Tom, do you have anything else you wanted to say before we wrapped up?
Oh, we're also going to be doing a DC episode because Alec loves Millie
yes.
Alcock and I love Kara Zor-El, and that's a perfect blending for the Supergirl movie for us.
Dude, I ride or die for Millie Alcock. I thought she was so good in Dance of Dragons. I wish I... Yeah, anyway, Tom, it was great. I don't know, we'll probably take me a couple weeks to research my Career Corner, but yeah, we'll do this again. Off season 8.5 of the Scuttle. First episode complete. This was a lot of fun. Thanks for doing this with me.
Yeah. I'm glad we did it. Great. Perfect excuse to show everyone the new theme song now instead of waiting for the season to start. I don't know if I could have sat on it that long. I couldn't have done it. I'm so excited.
You couldn't. And I will say we didn't even bug Bennett about where the draft is this whole pod. So,
no, we didn't.
You're welcome.
But I do, Bennett. I do want to know where we're drafting. I want to know where I'm going to have arguably one of the worst days of my life. I'd like to know that ahead of time.
It sucks, dude. God, it sucks planning the draft weekend. Man, I'm so glad I didn't have to. I mean, I would have obviously loved to win. Man, it is a pain in the ass. No. But anyway, Tom, you the man.
Thanks,
appreciate this, brother.
Good talking to you. All right. Thank you guys for listening to our first episode of season 8.5, I believe. I'm going to have to edit that later. We now have to do an outro. All right, so thank you all for listening to The Scuttle. We are currently sponsored by Nobody. Music performed and mixed by Digital Women. Look them up on SoundCloud. And all hail our champion commissioner. I'm definitely not being forced to say this. And as always, be kind to each other, and may the one above all bless this league. Look it up if you don't know who that is.